What's up, guys? Compound Coalition. I am here with Kiri Torgler from Thunder Hill Farms.
Yep,
I have that right?
you got it right.
What do you do?
I grow stuff from seed and then I make the best sauces you've ever had out of it.
Did you do that before you started the company?
No. I started getting really into gardening about 3-4 years ago, but I worked in corporate HR for 25 years.
It's a long time. How old are you?
50.
50. You're old.
I'm super young.
I'm older than you are.
Barely.
So how did we meet? Like, how did that come to be?
The long story?
Yeah, for real.
I was in the hospital. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now, and I had a bunch of health problems. And things just kind of multiplied beyond my control, and I found myself at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, awake in a hospital room, like nothing to do.
How long were you in the hospital for?
2.5 weeks first time.
For
I had a very, very large kidney stone that almost took me out.
Wow.
It was the size of a 22, apparently. It was 8 millimeter by 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 14 long. So that had me in there for a while, and then a couple months later, my appendix burst, which happens to anybody. And they botched the surgery, and I was back in ICU for about 2.5 weeks then, too.
For 2.5 weeks for the appendix?
No, because when they took my appendix out, they nicked my colon in 4 places.
Holy shit.
So, like a week later, I was back in ICU, but 3 o'clock in the morning, dealing with, like, why am I in the hospital? I haven't been in the hospital in my whole life, and lots of health problems, and you showed up on my feet
How long ago was that?
about 3 years ago.
So you were with Glenn?
Mm-hmm. Glenn and I have been together 15 years,
Okay.
and he has been very much in the homesteading and survival realm. He's a Marine.
Before you were, or were you there also?
I was getting there.
Were you kind of like, we got to do this shit, or you just loved him and you went along with it, or?
It started off as, I love you and I want us to have something together. And I grew up farming in Iowa, like my whole family farmed. So it wasn't outside of the realm, but a homestead versus a farm is a very different machine.
Production farm especially, yeah.
And I didn't want to do production farming. That's just...
So what did farming look like? Like, what did you guys grow?
When we were still in the city, we just kind of had a balcony garden, and I taught a lot of people how to do container gardening.
I mean, when you were a kid, like you grew up farming.
Grew up farming. We always had probably a 20 by 40 garden plot for the family, and I had relatives that were hog farmers, cattle farmers, and then I had a couple of relatives that did soybeans, did corn, large scale, and there was no draw of that to me. That was just... It's just a big business.
Something you had to do when you were younger, and you just got away from it as fast as you could?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I ran from Iowa to the city as quickly as I could. I went to art school, shocking, and really tried to get rid of my country roots as much as I could. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized that's really what I wanted.
It seems like generationally kids leave, small town to escape, right, to the city. They grow up, have kids, and then their kids grow up in the city and then escape back to small town. So it kind of goes back and forth.
Well, my mom grew up on a farm, and the big escape for them was to get to the big town of Dubuque, Iowa. And she went into banking. My dad was in HR. They were business. They wanted nothing to do with farming. And I didn't want anything to do with Iowa. So I went to art school to get as far away from it as I could. But immediately, once we got back out in the country, I had that moment of this is where I needed to be.
So where did you go to art school?
New York and Chicago. I was a accelerated program kid that went to Parsons very early, and got a general design degree. So you've seen some of the stuff that I've helped some of our friends with as far as branding goes. And I really, loved that, but there wasn't really a career in it for me. And then I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for my master's program, and got very upset with how involved politics and money were with that school.
So you have a master's degree in art?
No.
Okay.
I dropped out.
What kind of art did you go to school? Did you go to be an artist? Were you picturing painting in Italy, or what were you?
I wanted to be a costume designer.
Okay.
And then my major was fashion design and illustration, specifically historical. And then my minor was just baseline graphic design.
So you wanted to do like time period costumes for like a prop house or something,
Prop
movies
house,
or
film, whatever. I mean, I worked the Renaissance Fair circuit for,
just anywhere that would pay.
yeah.
So I have this opinion from the outside looking in. I think that the Renaissance Fair, when you first go, is super cool. But once you work at the Renaissance Fair, it's kind of like carnies. Like I know there's a bunch of like fucking parties and there's a bunch of shit happening afterwards, and when the costumes come off, you
After
know?
hours at a Renaissance Fair should be its own docudrama. Like,
I wonder why it hasn't been. Are Renaissance fairs dwindling? Like we have a pretty, well, my opinion is that we have a pretty decent one in the Nashville area, right? We have the castle on the hill, and he's got a few hundred acres there where they do it. But I haven't been to any others. But when I started looking at, I just one day looked up castles for sale, and there's a lot of them in the United States, and they host Renaissance fairs. You know, you got to have a castle to have a proper Renaissance fair. I guess you don't, but there's a Renaissance fair around it runs Thanksgiving to Christmas, and it's in Mississippi, I think. And it's like 4 weeks long, and it's time period. Everybody lives in that time period, and there's blacksmiths, and it's a whole living village for a month. Whereas ours is, what's ours, like a week long?
Yeah.
They have some jousting, and they bring in raptors, and do the birds of prey thing. It's neat to see once or twice.
I worked the Bristol Renaissance Fair up on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, so it pulls from Milwaukee, it pulls from Chicago. I had my own booth there. My first husband and I got married there a million years ago. He was a performer there, so I was very ingrained in the community there. And it's great, but honestly, what I've seen happen with a lot of the fairs that get bigger, Bristol for many years has been voted like the #1 Renaissance fair in America.
Okay.
It's turned into Six Flags. It's like $50 to get in. It's $25 or $30 to park. Just the pricing has gotten insane.
Like ours, like you can't even take, like if you have swords, they have to put a zip tie around them, like all kinds of shit.
You
like,
have to piece tie a wooden sword.
Like guys, there used to be dudes in armor that had these giant like hammers, war hammers, and now you can't have a real hammer. It has to be like a plastic, like foam cosplay one and shit.
Yeah. Well, and I know that they used to, I don't know if the new joust company does it, but they used to literally do the spaghetti-filled lances.
Really?
Yeah, they would take a hollow core lance, fill it with just dried spaghetti so that when they hit, they get the extra shatter from all the spaghetti. It's crazy. If you ever walked through the tilt yard after any of the days, it was like a pasta field. And they had people that would just come through and pick it all up so that it wasn't obvious piling up for the next year's.
Well, I guess your jousters have to go to the next venue also and be able to joust, probably.
Yeah. Actually, one of my oldest friends has been jousting for probably 35, almost 40 years, and now his kids are jousting.
We can get war horses.
Oh yeah, they breed them, and they live in Virginia.
Like percherons and stuff. Yeah.
The big pretty ones. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ren Fair was a really big part of my life for a long time, and then obviously we got into Burning Man.
How did that happen?
I used to work in nightclubs in Chicago in the 90s during the Bulls. So I met a lot of DJs and a lot of club promoters, and someone that I had worked with in Chicago happened to be one of the big producers for a big sound camp at Burning Man, and said, hey, can you fly out and be a weekender for me? My job was literally to show up on the weekend, not sleep the whole weekend, but I was there to manage and maintain the club so that the people that had built it and had been working all week could have the weekend off.
A club at Burning Man?
Yeah, it's a sound camp. Okay. Basically a big nightclub.
So like DJs and everything. Doesn't the equipment get completely fucked? Like, don't they have sandstorms and stuff?
They have sandstorms. They literally build Function 1 systems to be able to go out to playa because it's such microfine dust that they had to build like a filter layering system and an air system to basically clean everything out in between each set.
Interesting.
And this was 15, 16 years ago. So I'm sure the technology's improved. It's just not something that I was close to. Mm-hmm. But my job was to kind of patrol, walk around the club, make sure that there was no one ODing, no one getting harassed, there was no problems. And I was what they call a LEAL. So I was the law enforcement liaison. My job was to talk to the cops. So
are there a lot of cops there?
Probably at least one cop for every 5 participants.
It's interesting having conversations with you about Burning Man because from the outside looking in and everything you hear of it, it's just like anything goes. It's just this, there is no law and you just show up and like there's naked people everywhere and there's drugs available and like anything you want to do, you can experience there.
I would highly disagree at this point. The old days,
What is the old days?
13 years ago, before
Got
it
it.
sold out. It sold out for the first time, like ticket-wise, sold out in, I think, 2011.
Sold out as means there's no more tickets
There's
available.
no more tickets available.
Got it.
This year was the first year since then that it hasn't sold out.
Didn't they do it somewhere else and then they got kicked out and that's when they ended up in the desert?
Yeah, it started at Baker Beach in San Francisco. They did it there until they hit several thousand people showed up one weekend for it. It got shut down, so Larry Harvey and the Burning Man organization worked out that they had done something called 4th of July. So 4th of July, all the same hippies from San Francisco would go out to the Black Rock Desert and have a celebration. The legal rights out there are different because it is federal land. So going back to the police force conversation, every level of law enforcement is out there. FBI, CAA, DEA.
What are they looking for?
Everything. The drive to get from Fernley to Burning Man is called the Gauntlet. It's Highway 447, and it's about an hour and a half that you're on there. And it is the butt-puckering drive, because anything that you do, there is police enforcement watching the roads, waiting to pull people over.
Did you see it was this year, right, or last year, the protesters?
Yeah, that was last year.
And then tribal police was like, we're not having this.
100%.
Like, drove straight through all their shit.
Yep. The tribal police out there, there's different, I hate to be like this, but there's different types of burners. There are the people who recognize the rules, recognize the fact that we're on other people's land, we're driving through other people's land, and you need to be respectful, right? Pyramid Lake is something that you drive past on your way up to Burning Man. It's beautiful, and it's called Pyramid Lake because there's a pyramid land structure in the middle of the lake. They've been posting for years, do not swim in Pyramid Lake. It's sacred land for the tribes that live here. Leave it alone. Well, we would go early and stay late, and we would still see people there constantly. So the tribal police have been pushed to their edge for decades dealing with Burning Man people.
So like we're going to end this right
Yeah,
now.
we've had enough.
But were the protesters Burning Man people?
I don't think so.
It was just somebody, because they were stopping traffic.
Yeah, it
like
was
when you saw the aerial view, it was 15 so miles back or something.
Well, and that road, because it's only a 2-lane road, anything that happens on that road shuts everything down.
And then there's some other turns on the way that you can take that are very, very treacherous. I remember seeing some videos about that. Guys are like out there with trailers on these little goat trails, and there's no turnaround or anything.
And what they were taking was called Genko Road, which is the northern entrance into Burning Man, which is not a published
It's like a
route.
mining road or something.
Yeah, and a couple of our friends, they have probably like a 27 to 30 foot RV. They took the wrong turn and took Genko Road all the way into Burning Man, white knuckled.
Wow.
And like filmed part of it, like a section of it, because it was literally like the roads falling off at the side of this RV. It's, when I was heavily involved with the organization, that was one of the things we were trying to push for is, can we get a real road created here? Because that way it stops that bottleneck coming from the south.
You would think somebody put a gate there during that time, so that couldn't happen.
Yeah, but I would agree. I just think that a lot of the new burner culture is very much, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever I want, so people are still going to end up in that situation.
Do people die at Burning Man?
Every single day.
What is the normal cause of death?
It depends. I mean, it's a city of 80,000 people.
80,000.
And they do have a full hospital there. Like,
I would assume they do.
they're able to do trauma surgery. They're able to do all that stuff. They also have a full airport. They medevac people out all the time. One of the things that we frequently, my husband ran a camp of 50 people. We ran the camp together. I ran the village that the camp was in, which was 250 to 300 people. So I needed to be plugged into all of the emergency services. I made sure that everyone that camped with us got for $50, you could buy a insurance package that covered if you needed to be air vac'd out. So just doing those kind of pieces and making sure people had their safety net was a lot of what my job was. But yeah, they've got a full hospital. They've got all the police out there that you could imagine. They've got a volunteer workforce of over probably 10,000 people. And then they have a pretty lowly paid, like one of my very good friends is an assistant manager for the organization, and she makes $18 an hour. And
this is a full-time job every day of the year for her?
Yep.
And she's an assistant manager?
5 days.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but-
But I mean, it's a full-time
Yeah.
position.
And then they've got a ton of seasonal people. A lot of folks start getting out to playa around June. They set up in Gerlach, which is the town just south of that pretty much the org owns now. They have, I know there are other people that live there, but most of the infrastructure in that town, Burning Man is touching or working with.
Does it look like Burning Man during those off times?
No, I mean, it does, but it doesn't. They also just built, right outside of where the site is, they built a huge storage and shipping area. So a lot of the theme camps, the people that are doing it year in, year out, they can buy a shipping container and store all their things there on a secure property.
What are the big floats called?
Art cars or mutant vehicles.
And they're huge, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are enormous. Do those stay out there? Or do they?
So, a lot of them do.
Okay.
A lot of them do. Honestly, in the last like 5 years, a lot of the biggest mutant vehicles that everybody's really known from Burning Man have broken down or burned down. And it's been very weird because it's some of like La Contessa was the first big one, and it's a tall ship, a bigger tall ship than I've ever seen in real life. I think they said it was 3 buses, but it was 3 decks, and that burned down.
Is somebody burning them down?
That one got. They think it was arson because the land it was stored on, there was bad blood between the owners of mutant vehicle and the landowner. But also, Mayan Warrior was another big one. They had like probably a $2 million laser system on this vehicle. I can send you images of all of this stuff. They had a burn like a year or 2 ago where they lost everything. And the big rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the rumor is that that was owned by the Mexican cartel. Which, great. But there are certain mutant vehicles that are just there to drive around and look gorgeous and offer people rides and give you the
And
experience.
some of these things they're huge, right? And they move very, very slow. Like you can just walk up and get on them, and then they have. I've seen them with like swings and bar and dance floors and everything on these things.
And if, depending on how big they are, they need to have spotter walkers at each corner to literally take them out and guide them out.
But it didn't used to be like that.
No. I mean, there used to be a drive-by shooting range. People would just drive their cars randomly in the desert, and they would have like a light-up shooting range where people would do that. I mean, it used to be very much the anarchist spirit.
And then it runs for how long? A week?
A week.
And then it takes weeks of cleanup afterwards.
Yes. They have several thousand people out there doing the LNT, Leave No Trace walkthrough, and we call them MOOP zombies. MOOP is matter out of place. It's anything that shouldn't be there. And they literally go elbow to elbow, and they walk a line and pick up everything. And depending on the speed of the line is the rating you get from Burning Man on how much cleanup they had to do of your space. And then your placement for the next year is based on that.
Got it. So those crews are doing their space, not the entire
No, they're doing
property.
the entire property.
How big is the entire property?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get it to you, but
Is it like 10 acres, 100 acres,
No.
thousands of acres?
It's probably 60 to 80 acres.
And it's all on an Indian reservation?
It's all on Bureau of Land Management
BLM,
land.
okay.
BLM land.
So they obviously pay a fee to use this?
Oh, yeah. And being able to get the permit to do it the next year is based on the EPA walkthrough, which is where they're making sure that we've cleaned everything up.
Do they pay the government $100,000 or $1 million? Like, what does that even cost?
I don't know. I think it's published. I'm pretty sure it's published on the Burning Man website. They really go into detail about all their finances, which is great to see. I never cared enough to see how much.
I'm just curious. Yeah. I don't.
They pay way too much because, and also like just as a ticket holder, you're paying the Nevada entertainment tax, you're paying all of the federal taxes, you're paying the use taxes to be able to have the event on that land. I mean, when you look at your ticket breakdown and then you see your taxes and fees breakdown, it's a little shocking. But
And everything is free there?
the only things that you can buy there are ice, and it used to be ice and coffee. Ice, they just need to make sure that people have a way to hydrate themselves in the desert, because it is literally, you have to bring everything in with you. There are porta potties there, and they sell ice.
And this costs you. So it costs you a lot of money to even go to Burning
Thousands.
Man. Much less to be a vendor or whatever. But there's no commerce.
There's no commerce. You don't sell anything. Everything is a gift. It's not even trade. It's not barter. It is, I am giving you this with zero expectation back.
So how do they benefit from this?
How does Burning Man?
Well, if you wanted to go, for instance, you go to Burning Man, there's no compensation at Burning Man. There's no profit from Burning Man. Do you somehow do commerce and business after the fact? Does anybody follow your social media while you're there so you have the ability to gain customers?
You could. That's not something that I've ever done. Mine was all about community building because, I know we'll pivot to talk about the farm again, but when we do GSD weekends up at our farm, it's all Burning Man people that are coming up to help us.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're getting people from Kansas City, Chicago, Detroit, as far as New York, that are friends of ours that we have helped keep alive on Playa and taken care of, that they're part of our community now. So they're starting to pivot with us and go, oh, Burning Man's great. It's a great party. It's wonderful. But there's something better. There's something more that we can do with our lives than go out and have a dust rave.
So are they moving to where you are? Are they relocating over there?
Some people are talking about it. There are people looking at land around us.
Interesting. So we moved here. I did business with James Yeager. Do you know who James is?
Yep.
Tactical response. Have you ever taken a tactical response class?
Sadly, not yet.
So I did business with James for probably 15 years. And when I said I need to get out of California, he said, come here. And I go, okay. He goes, you won't come here. I go, oh, okay, I'll get tickets. And it was kind of one of those double dog dare you things, right? I'm going to be stuck to the lamp pole with my tongue stuck, or I'm going to fly out there. And we came out. And we saw people come here because James was here. We came here because James was here. And then doing our thing and with our social media presence, we've had, I don't know, over 100 people just show up out of the blue. Hey, I'm here to work. And it was usually like single men, single young men, especially running from something. Mm-hmm. They got a warrant, or they broke up with a girlfriend was a big one. Yeah. Or they just, escaping from where they are, and they see the videos, and I was very careful, like, hey, this is not what you see here. We actually work, right? Mm-hmm. They see the jackass stuff, and we're shooting Tyler, and we're, lighting shit on fire and stuff, but so they come out, and some of them stick and some of them don't. Some of them are here for a few years and then they meet somebody. But there's a lot of people that have moved here because of, James, and then later on because of our stuff. And, there's over, and I don't know necessarily that it's Self-Reliance Festival. There's definitely people that have moved here because of Self-Reliance Festival. Yeah. But we're in a pretty decent area. The weather's pretty mild. We get, a fair amount of rain even when there's a drought. And there's a whole community of people that the locals don't even know are here, right? We only know it because we're in farmsteading groups and homesteading groups, or you're looking for raw milk, or you're looking for food without poison, right? Yeah. So you meet these people and you're like, holy shit, there's a whole entire group of people here that nobody even, it's almost like you have to have the secret handshake before you can even see it. And it's right there. You drive past this little dirt road. You just don't know what's on the other side of the hill. And there's a ton of that. And I really believe that it's happening everywhere. I want to believe that it's happening everywhere. And then you get Joel Salatin out here, and you get all these other, Billy Bond, and they got the exact same thing going on. They're just kind of in the outskirts of, in their communities. And it's pretty neat. And then you talk to, like, I've never talked to anybody that did Burning Man. I'm always like, we should go to Burning Man or Wasteland or something. And I went down this rabbit hole watching, there was some super famous YouTuber on a one wheel, and he color graded everything. I'm like, man, this guy's so crazy at Burning Man. But it's all like color grading,
It sounds like Mark Day.
Maybe. Huge channel, had a new girlfriend, and they went all over the place.
No, you're talking about Halcyon, pink hair?
Maybe.
Halcyon, actually now, John Halcyon, great guy.
Incredible. When I started doing YouTube stuff, I was watching tons of Peter McKinnon, and I stumbled across his, and then I spent like 3 days watching Burning Man and Wasteland stuff, and I'm like, that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what I know. And all the comments were like, people like you ruined, Burning Man. And
there's so many opinions about the culture of Burning Man. And it really cracks me up. I'll be really honest. I left because, one, I'm tired of losing money to go on vacation. Okay?
That's a good way to look at it, though. It's vacation.
Yeah, it was as much work as I do any other day of the week, because my job was to make sure that those 300 people stayed alive so they could go home. Okay. And it does, it's a big party, but like one year we just got done setting up our camp. We're sitting down to have our first cocktail of the event. The event's not even open yet. And one of our campers got run over by a loaded trailer, shattered her pelvis, multiple internal injuries, medevaced out. So yeah, you have to deal with dealing with LEOs, dealing with medical, having to talk to the family while you're at Burning Man. I mean, it's someone's got to be the responsible adult. Someone's got to be in charge. And that's what Glenn and I are really good at doing, of being the safe, sane, and sober people.
Got it.
Well, but
So why are you not doing Burning Man as like a brand new thing?
it's we stopped in 2022. We got married there in 2019. Then it didn't happen in 2020 or 2021 because of this stuff. We went back in 2022 to basically.
So they didn't have it during COVID?
No.
So
They had a renegade burn. It was not an officially sanctioned.
So when was it where they had a torrential downpour and people were in the mud and they got super sick and they had this outbreak,
That was
mystery
2023.
virus?
2023, our first year not going, and I was like, well, if I needed a sign that I made the right decision,
Right.
but our camp is still there, our village is still there. They all pulled through. They actually did quite a bit of resource management, trying to help other people that were stuck out there. I was pretty proud of the kids that I, raised and handed it over to, because they did what they were supposed to be doing, which is taking care of the community. Don't miss it. I love seeing the pictures. It's much more enjoyable to sit down and watch a video of it and go, oh, hey, they're over by Pete's place. Hey, look, they're the tuna guys. It's memory lane. I miss the drive out there because I'm a Midwestern girl. So once we get to about Wyoming, Utah, everything starts to change in a way it's so foreign to me, and it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. But I don't miss a lot of it. It was a great experience, but I think I kind of grew out of it in my own way, and I find more enjoyment now doing things like Self-Reliance Festival, coming down here and working with you guys, because there were maybe 5 or 6 of us in the village that did all of the work.
That's everywhere. 10% do 80% in any organization.
I like being around people who work hard.
So you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
How'd you find my stuff?
Through Nicole and Jack.
Okay.
It was literally, I caught one of the Tuesday lives during the day, and you got in my algorithm, and it was one of your morning videos. And I was sitting in the hospital, 100 pounds overweight, not knowing, miserable in my job, no direction, just like, what is going on? We had just moved up north like a year before, and I hadn't really hit my groove yet. And it was like you walked into my room and smacked me upside the head. And that's the best way I can put it, that I was just like, stop with the excuses. I was very, very good at making excuses on why I couldn't do something and why I wouldn't try something and why I wouldn't make my health better and why I wouldn't make my life better. And I don't know, you got through. You got through really, really hard with me, and got home and changed everything, and really doubled down into getting my fingernails in the dirt and seeing what I could do with land and seeing what I could do with plants. I've always been good with people. I've been in service of people since I was 13. But being able to pivot and go, maybe just because you're good at it doesn't mean you have to.
Were you living in the city?
At that time, no. We had already moved up north.
Okay. So you're on the property you're on now.
Mm-hmm.
And you have how much property right now?
7 acres.
But it's attached to family members?
Yeah, we are surrounded. My husband's brother and sister own most of the acreage around us, and then anything like that you go out another layer from that, they're cousins.
Roughly combined, how much is all of it?
Probably about 200 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's ridiculously beautiful where I live. I send my friends pictures all the time, and when they come up, they're like, the pictures don't even do it justice.
How much time do you spend frozen?
It might be frozen when I get home. Usually from November to March at least. Our first year up there, we had 3 weeks of solid negative 30.
Did you watch that Alaska show, Jules Family? So it's like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I still watch the Kilchers because they now, I don't know if you heard about that, but Discovery just stopped showing up. Just stopped. No communication. So the dad and one of the sons just started their own YouTube channel.
So Discovery stopped showing up to film them?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he talks, Otto Kilcher talks about it on his channel. He's like, we don't know what happened. They just stopped coming, so we decided to do our own thing.
I'll bet they're better for it now.
Yeah, their content's great.
Discovery came out and shopped us for a show. Nat Geo came out, filmed a show with James, and then shopped us. We've been shopped for 3 different shows. They came out, and we immediately no, we don't want to do this shit.
Good call.
And then they keep coming for some reason. They keep talking more and more. We filmed Doomsday Preppers. They filmed James Doomsday Preppers. They filmed 6 hours in our shop.
Yeah.
That never aired. But I mean, we did like Snipers Inc., where they had it was interesting, and the people filming that shit hate guns. Mm-hmm. Like the videography guys and the sound guys, they brought them out of Nashville, and those dudes were cool. But the producer hated guns, like absolutely hated guns. James was telling him, like, there's all this explosive, this binary explosive in this vehicle, and he's like, you guys got to move back. And they kind of moved back. He's like, no, like, you have to move all the way back, as far back as you can go. And he comes back 30 minutes later, he's like, okay, you guys got to move over here. And then they go, why? He goes, because parts are going to fly off of this car. And they did. They moved. And the hood came off of that damn car and landed where they were fucking stopped. Like it would have, it like a Frisbee. It was wild, man. You guys can see it on Snipers Inc. And that was Nat Geo, filmed for Barrett Firearms. But that was all James's crew. And me and Amanda and the kids were out there when that all happened. I think Amanda was there. But it's fucking wild, man. And these people, they have no clue. They're like, holy shit, you can just buy explosives? And James like, oh, no. You have to have a credit card. Like, they didn't know how to take him. And but the people running the show hate guns. Mm-hmm. Same thing with like Doomsday Preppers. Like, we knew several people that were on episodes of Doomsday Preppers, and they portrayed them in a manner that was not, like, I know those people. And they kept trying to get James to say, when me and my militia take over the town. And he goes, I'm not saying that. And they kept trying to get him to, and he goes, look, man, not only am I not saying it, I'm not even going to give you the word, because you're not going to cut this together to make me look crazy later.
Correct.
And that chick was running around in my shop later, like on the second day. And she's running around in her socks barefooted. And she was trying to back up a minute. She's like, I want you guys to do a hero pose. So he's got all these dudes came into town to film this shit, and they're doing like Wolverines. And they go, okay, I need you to put all the guns on safe, and I need you to take the mags out. He goes, I'm not doing a photo with no magazines in the guns. Like, we do this all the time. Just because you're uncomfortable, we're not going to do something that we wouldn't really do. But later on, she's running around, and James supposed to come in and have us build this rig for the collapse of society and stuff. And I don't remember, we built in an SW rig or something. And she's like running through the shop, and she slips, and her finger goes in the racking that we have all through the store, and it breaks her finger. Like, you could hear it. Like, I could feel that bitch's finger break. Damn. And I go, serves her fucking right. And James goes, you're wired for sound. So, like, I kind of felt bad. I'm like, maybe that's why it never aired. But, like, I just saw a video a couple days ago of some dude explaining why it didn't air. And he was completely fucked up because they didn't air it before whatever time period thing he was even talking about. Mm. It was fucking wild, man.
The company I used to work for, I've been wanting to tell you about this because I'm still trying to hunt it down. We did production on a school series called Media Smart, probably 17, 18 years ago. And the entire program, it was made for high school, and the entire program was teaching kids how to understand how media and film and all the industries are manipulating you. Mm-hmm. It was brilliant. I did all the closed captioning for it, so I literally watched
propaganda,
the entire thing, and it would break apart. Like, for example, one of them was Lord of the Rings, and they broke apart a tense scene to teach kids about, okay, see how the lighting is changing, see how the sound is changing, see how the pacing is changing. All of this is to build anxiety and build pressure in you, the viewer. And they would do things like drop pieces out and go, now how does this,
without the layering,
how does this work for you? And they did it with the news, they did it with the weather. It was genius. Guess what's not on the market? That program.
Interesting.
And I'm like, I so badly want to get a copy of it just for my kids to be like, watch this. And it was literally teaching kids how to be smart about their media. It talked about social media. It talked about Twitter. Did all of these things about, think before you post something. It literally, in one of the lessons, talked about the internet doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's what I tell my kids. Like in school, if you get in trouble, this is on your permanent record. Like, there is no fucking permanent record, but the internet is the permanent record.
Yep.
And it's even beyond now. anything you sent to your girlfriend or your boyfriend or husband, wife, like you have to realize that everything is stored someplace. And sooner or later, if they want to use that against you, they will use that against you in the future when they want you. You don't have to commit a crime. They will assign a team of analysts to go through all of your data to find a crime.
Yeah.
It's the skeletons in the closet.
And honestly, my dad taught me a lesson a very long time ago. I had a bad day at work, long time ago, and I put some complaining up on Facebook, and my dad, may he rest in peace, called me up and he was like, listen, that never goes away. Take it down now, delete it. You don't need that out there. Don't air your laundry on the internet. There's no point in it. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, like, I'll put up a help wanted post in a local Facebook group here, and I'll just say, hey, we're going to do employee additions. And they're like, what's that? Like, if you can't get beyond that, like, you're definitely not going to, fit in and match. And then I don't put up an address, and I'll get 200 comments of like, I would never work for somebody too dumb to put up an address, but we're weeding them out. Like, that's on purpose. And then the first thing we do when somebody's like, and I don't ever reply to, hey, what's the pay rate? What's the hour? I don't reply to anything. You just have to show up.
Yeah.
If you can make it through showing up, then we can discuss all the rest, because the pay rate's always going to depend on your performance. But that's constant, and we always click that button to see what they're posting. If they're always grumbling and mumbling, it's going to be a fucking cancer in the shop. That's the last person we want in there.
100%.
Yeah, always. What so SRF, you came out to when?
2 years ago.
2
this
years
time. So this is our 4th SRF.
Did we talk?
Yeah, I brought you 2 fig trees.
Got it.
Showed up with those big pots, and
Yep,
you were
they
like,
were on the front porch up
Yep.
until this last. They drowned.
it's all right. I actually dumped some of the soil out of it and put it in your garden.
Yeah, I never drilled those out. That's the same thing happening with that comfrey back there.
Oh, the comfrey I replanted for you too.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, just attended last year in the fall, last year in the fall. Then the spring one was my first vending, which was like a shotgun approach.
Did you have a product then?
I had a product, but it was a shotgun. It was like, I have all of this produce, I have all of these things I'm growing, I need to figure out my flavors, I need to figure out what I'm doing, so I just did a little of everything. So that was our first vend, was the spring, and then obviously we came in the spring and attended, then I vended in the fall, I vended in the spring again, and now we're here and I'm doing all the things for some reason.
What are you doing? What is your products right now?
Well, my products, I've
Like,
got.
how do you describe it?
I make barbecue sauces, meat marinades, grilling sauces, dessert toppings,
It's kind of beyond that, though.
bacon jam.
Okay.
I mean,
Stuff in jars.
stuff in jars that, I mean, honestly, the way I look at it is it's some of my products are there to make your cooking experience easy, because anybody that's ever had to caramelize onions and garlic knows it takes hours. I just try to do things that you can use a spoon of this and it does the same thing.
Got it.
And I'm pretty good with flavor.
And you ship it?
I ship everywhere.
Who handles your shipping?
United States Post Office or
You?
me.
You handle the shipping?
Me handle the shipping.
Got it.
But I've listened very deeply to the advice that you have given me during the Q&A sessions over the years. And it's like, if you look at the sign on my table, I take everything that can be taken.
Who else do you listen to?
I listen to Jack, I listen to Nicole, I listen to Billy,
Who do you listen to
William.
outside of our networks?
Hermosi.
Good.
A lot of Hermosi.
Yep.
Honestly, like, if you send me something or Amanda send me something, I just subscribe and I constantly listen. You know, the Hermosi video that you had Chuck send me last week, I'd already listened to.
Good.
And I think Leela Hermosi's a Jedi also.
I never see any of her shit. I wouldn't know what she even looks like.
Oh,
I know her name because he says it, but I've never seen any of her content.
I think she's fantastic.
Which is weird because it should show it, right?
It should,
but it
yeah.
doesn't. Not to me. Amanda sees it, but I've never seeked it out.
Algorithm.
Yeah, weird.
Who knows? But yeah, I listen to those folks quite a bit. Honestly, I've chosen my programming pretty deeply because of good advice. Of like, if it's not adding to me, I don't have any time for it anymore.
Could you have done it quicker? Do you wish you had done it quicker?
I wish I would have done it quicker. I wish I would have made this life change as soon as I met Glenn. I wish we would have been up in Little Ogama, Wisconsin, carving this life out, because it's the best.
I don't know why we do that, right? Like, I spent 20 years, well, I spent my entire life going, I got to get out of California, I got to get out of California. And you hear people say it all the time. And literally, we loaded up, we left, I'll bet we left 75% of everything we had back in California, loaded up things that I perceived that I would want or need, right? And most of it still sitting unpacked. Like, I have shit that we moved here 20 years ago that we've never even unpacked. And came here. And as soon as we left California, we hit the Arizona border. We stopped at a gas station, and you could buy fireworks. Like, we couldn't buy fireworks. We used to have to smuggle them from Mexico, which was a pretty big deal, or perceived to be, right? Like, it's like you were smuggling drugs across the border, you would think. But in Arizona, we could buy fireworks, and we launched them from the gas station, which you'd be in, like, I think you'd be in real trouble, at least in San Diego. Like, you fucking launch some fireworks, fucking cops are showing up with guns. Yeah. So that was pretty wild. And then the money thing, the money goes so much further leaving California. And then you don't even know how really bad it is until you've been out of there for a couple of years and you have to go back for something. Like, we went back to what used to be like, well, it was all the nicer malls and stuff, right? The places where you couldn't afford to eat and shit. And you go back there and it's just a shithole. Like, all the fountains were broken. There was like dogs everywhere. Like, there was just dogs there without people. And then everybody had dogs there. We went into a Rolex store and the counters were broken in the Rolex store in Fashion Valley. And then, like, we had left this place called Horton Plaza. It was down by the bay where the airport is, and it was a migrant camp. Like, it was all just destroyed and broken down. It was fucking wild. Like, some of the most expensive property in San Diego, and it's just trash.
Well, I mean, I lived in Chicago from 1992 until 15 years ago, pretty regularly, and I loved Chicago. I was a diehard, loved my town. I loved Chicago. And you couldn't pay me enough money to move back there now.
Yeah.
Like, it is.
Do you think it's changed that much, or do you think you've just seen another way?
I think I've
Maybe
changed.
That's what it is.
Like, I don't have the patience for the noise and the chaos and everybody's opinions anymore.
Yeah, the city noises. Like, when I would put video sound into stuff and you had those city noises, I'm like, who the fuck wants to live in an apartment where you hear horns beeping and jets and shit all the time?
Well, the last place that we lived in before we moved up to the country, we lived 2 blocks from the cop shop during COVID. And it got to the point where it was like you could set your watch every 2 to 3 hours, just screaming sirens going past the house. And I was like, I can't handle this anymore.
It's like people living by a train track or something, like where their house shakes and rattles. I never lived in one of those, but I saw them like on TV and shit.
Oh, my grandparents, they used to live in downtown Dubuque. Every time a semi went by, the entire house rattled. And it was just like...
So you've lived in New York and Chicago.
And Taos, New Mexico.
Which one's got better pizza?
Chicago.
Is New York pizza? New York pizza's a thing, right?
Yeah, it's greasy, big slice.
Who has better hot dogs?
Chicago.
Chicago?
Well, actually, no. I don't like the Chicago dog. It's got to be an all beef dog, no matter what. And I like a New York dog. I just haven't had one in
boiled or grilled?
It's got to be grilled.
Steamed.
It's got to be boiled.
Steam
then
thing?
They got to steam it, then grill it.
Yeah, it has to have grill marks on it. Yeah.
Yeah. My hometown is famous for really bad ham. So
really,
Dubuque ham, yeah.
We have like a Clifty ham. Like James sent a bunch of hams. He had come home from contracting and sent the guys in Iraq a bunch of these hams. And he's like, "How are the hams?" And they're like, "Oh, they were all moldy, man. We threw them away." He's like, "No, that's how they come," because he sent them country hams.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'd come from California, and he gave me some. I'm like, "This is terrible. Like, what is this? Like preserved or something? Like it's so salty, you know?"
Yeah.
That's not how I grew up eating ham.
No. Well, we grew up with watery ham.
So you left your job. You were at your job for how long?
24 and a half years.
Do you miss it?
Nope.
Do you miss anybody there?
Yes. I miss the team that I built there, because when I left, literally for generations, every person that came through that door came through me. So I knew them. I'm pretty good interviewing people, getting to know people. I'm the one that on-ramped them and had their back.
And you're a human resources person? Is that what you did?
Yep.
Did you ever slap any of them?
Nope. Wanted to. Actually, no. The people that worked The employees of the company, by and large, I'd say 99% of them, fantastic. The problem was with the ownership.
I watch these videos. I'm sure they're spoof videos, but like this lady calls. She's like, the elevator's broken, and they're like, yeah, we're on the second floor. Go ahead and walk up. But the elevator's broke. You know, shit like that. I'm taking a digital cleanse day. Okay, but your job, we just hired you. You have to come to work. Well, I'm taking like that shit.
And that's one of the, like, I wanted my own life more so than getting out of HR, but like the number one reason I wanted out of HR was because of the generation of I don't want to work coming up and the things that
So why do they go to work? Why do they try to, like, what happens there?
What do you mean? Why
If they don't want to work, why the fuck are they at work?
Because it's what they're programmed to, supposed to have to do.
I feel it's like an addict, right? An addict, like a drug addict, for instance, right? They know they're fucked up, and then they just hit low enough that they think that they want to turn it around, so they make that effort to turn it around. I'm clean for 2 days, I'm clean for 2 days, and then they disappear, right? I think it's like that. They're not working, they know they need to work. Mom's on them at home, or whoever's on them, and they're getting evicted, whatever it is.
They're doing
but
the least amount of work.
they still can't manage it. Like I don't get it.
Well, and I think that unlike a lot of people in HR, I've always been very direct. I don't let people get to the second and third problem. And you're going to hear me talk about this on Sunday, which is I don't care if you're painting a wall or you're writing a report. When you see something wrong, you immediately go to the person calmly and go, okay, this is not correct. This is what the ask was. Please fix it. And you make them fix it immediately, because if you let it go one or two times, you're building their own bad habits.
So I tell my young guys, I'm like, hey, check this out. This is how I do this. And that's me giving you the option to do it how I want you to do it without me making you. And the second time is, hey, I showed you how to do this. Watch me do this again. This is how I want it. That's me showing you how to do it without twisting your arm. The third time, you're going to correct this, or there's going to be somebody else standing here doing this job.
Yeah. And when you're dealing with a large group of people, not individuals, you have to correct it immediately, or the entire pod starts doing things their own way.
Yeah, the cancer moves through everything. Yeah.
So yeah, I was very good about calmly, nicely, but very firmly going, okay, this is incorrect. Let's do it the right way. And that first interaction tells you whether that person's going to be there in 6 months or not, period. And I would be able to bet money on it.
Yeah, we hire them. They'll do everything to get the job and nothing to keep the job. That's what I used to say. Until the guys have you're given the guys a nickname, I don't need to know their name, because 90 days later, if they haven't, like, you never know.
If
like,
they haven't
I don't
endeared
need to know
themselves
your
to the
name
team.
for 90 days.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of like in the corporate world that I was in, there was a lot of like, the company owes me this. The company doesn't owe you anything.
That's interesting, isn't it?
I started working when I was 13 years old at a Village Inn restaurant in Dubuque, Iowa, because I begged for a job. I went to that job 5 days a week at 13 and worked 6 to 8 hour shifts because I was lucky to have a job. That was it.
Yeah, my grandfather got me a job at 13 and a half. That's when we were legally able to work in California. So I got a check from McDonald's. I rode 2 buses, changed buses twice, and rode 90 minutes to get to work at McDonald's on Kearny Mesa Boulevard, which was 90 minutes from my house by the bus system. And I did that. That's when I started working with 13 and a half.
Yeah. I started as a syrup girl. I used to go in 2 days a week and take all the old syrup caddies. They had like
Got
6
it.
flavors. I'd do smoking section one day when they still had a smoking section, and non-smoking the next day. So that was like Monday, Tuesday.
We were just talking about smoking section with the kids the other day.
Yep.
I say kids, they're 22, but I go, dude, we used to fly on planes and people smoked on planes.
Yep, and you used to go to the hospital and see ashtrays. Like, but yeah, I did that 2 days a week, and then Friday night fish fry, Saturday morning and Sunday morning, my job was to tray up everything for the waitresses and have their orders ready, so that all they had to do was do the back and forth. Let me tell you, this 13-year-old was a hustler, because every waitress tipped me out.
That's awesome.
So I would walk home, literally like walk over the hill to my home, and my mom, who was the banker, she just met me at the door like this. Just put the money in my hand. She put all that money away for me, and when I was 16, she bought me the ugliest car in the world, that out of my tip money.
Was it a Gremlin?
No, it was a Chevy Citation with a sideways stereo.
It's kind of like a Gremlin, isn't it? Look that up.
It's super like
Chop that in
grandma-y.
there.
It's super grandma-y, yeah. tan two-tone, but I was the first person out of my friends group that had a car.
That's cool.
So yeah, I started doing that. I worked there until I went to New York, and in New York I worked as a coat check girl at a big nightclub. And then I got done in New York and came to Chicago and got hired by the same manager that I worked for in New York at a club in Chicago doing cover charge, and they're running their boutique. And
So if a guy wants to start a nightclub, obviously he starts and he's low funded or whatever, and runs his own management and shit. But if you were to start a real nightclub or grow your nightclub, do you hire an outside management company that staffs that, and then you are you step out of that, or how does that work?
yeah, you don't want to, if you want to own a club, you don't want to run a club. It's ugly. It's dirty, it's ugly, it's expensive, and there's way too many people you got to pay off all the time.
Where in New York and Chicago? Mm-hmm. You think that's the same way everywhere?
Mm-hmm. When it comes to a liquor license, that's just
got it.
It's
got
it's as old as
yep,
time.
Yep, I've even heard it here in this county talking about liquor license.
Yeah, liquor licenses are the hardest part. And what's funny is living in Wisconsin, they've got the Tavern Association, so you don't just have to deal with getting a liquor license; you have to get in with the Tavern Association.
Got it.
Yeah, I have friends that just opened a brewery like 5 or 6 years ago, and hearing the woes of what they have to go through to make their own beer, to stay in the Tavern League, to keep their liquor license is just.
Yeah.
I'll stick with farming.
Wild. So you started your company. You were still working HR.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that overlap?
3 or 4 years. I wasn't taking my company seriously.
What changed? Like what was the day? Do you remember what made the decision to take it seriously?
I think it was, I feel like I'm just sitting here kissing your ass, but I think it was honestly you and Amanda and all the advice that you had given me, and then taking those things into practice. I know I'm a good salesperson. People come to my booth, and if I can get someone to taste something, I've made a sale, period. It always works that way. It's getting them to that point and getting the tools and the answers from you guys about how easy I can make it by using your advice and listening to the experts and not wasting thousands of dollars and hours on figuring out how to do it the right way. I felt like I had a pro team behind me, so it was time to really take it seriously. And SRF was really a testing ground for me. And I built fans immediately, which I've been really lucky about. I mean, Jose was kind of one of my first fans. Like, I made cowboy candy. I don't eat jalapenos. I do now.
We have a bunch in there. Amanda had made it years ago. So that's Carita Lee's husband, Jose Rivera.
Yeah. And we actually, that second tent that's by our tent is for them this weekend because they've
never camped.
They've never camped, and I was like, you're going to come and you're going to camp with us, and you're going to see how nice camping is.
But you guys camping's different than what most people camp.
We camp like adults, John.
Yeah. Like there's a floor in your tent.
There's a floor, there's a full bed, there's tables.
It's like Harry Potter's tent. You walk in there and it just keeps going.
Yeah, I like it, because that's what Glenn and I do. We travel and we camp really well. Like, that's a litmus test, I think, for any relationship. Like, if you can put up a tent with your partner in the dark, in the rain.
In the rain with the wind.
And not kill each other, you're going to be fine.
There's a man named Gary Smalley. He has a program called 10 Keys to a Loving Relationship about cherishing. And that's what he always talks about. He says, when you think about it, all of the times that you think about and you talk about it as having being a child when you're an adult, it's always some time of turmoil. The RV caught on fire, or the tent blew away, or any of those things. It's always because it was built under pressure, and so many people now have no pressure testing. They've never been tested.
Glenn and I have been through some serious, like, broken down trailers on the side of the desert after Burning Man, way overloaded. Like, we've been through a lot of little snafus like that, and I think that's why we're so kind of unflappable now. Everything that goes on with putting an event together. We've been both in event production together with large scale events for 15 years. As long as everybody's alive, that's all that matters. Everything else will work out. Like, you slap a sign on it, don't overcomplicate it. Don't overstress it. If you're producing something, no one should ever see you.
So there's not going to be any meltdown ever.
Not with me.
Yeah.
Not with me. No.
Yeah.
I mean, and like any good relationship, I'm sure you and Amanda have this too. Like, he can look at me and say a keyword and put me in check the right way. Like, he's literally be like, does it matter? And I'm like, you're right, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter at all. And sometimes I have to do that to him because I love him, but he's a hothead Marine at times. It doesn't seem like it, but he can get there.
Right. We have our in public appearance, right? We don't know each other
Yeah.
well enough to see the other side of it
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's all perspective. And it's, nobody's. I used to say this at my job all the time, too. Listen, we don't cure cancer. We don't save babies. We make pretty pictures. Like, nothing I make is life dependent. What I do is I'm going to add some really good flavor to your life. But what he does could be life or death with people. He's an electrician. So, like, he has to take things seriously to a level. Not so much with the sauce business, but it's the community I'm trying to build around this and the people that I want to be engaging with and want to help build their community and help build their businesses.
Do you guys have cottage food law?
Yeah.
You guys have all that stuff?
Yeah.
Does that cross state to state, or does it change every state? Or
It can change from state to state. I've done my research in the states when I go to travel to make sure that our cottage laws overlap. Wisconsin has really high standards for their cottage laws. So if I'm doing it correctly for Wisconsin, I am 90% guaranteed I'm doing it correctly for everywhere else.
But typically you don't have like the food cops showing up at events and stuff. Your events, mostly from my perspective, are all kind of homesteading based right now. You're following, like we used to, when we started, it was gun shows, right?
Yeah.
So every week almost out of the year in California, Arizona, and Nevada, we could do a gun show, and it would just move to boom, 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 just like carnies. Yeah. And that's kind of how this is. That's how it's popping up, right?
I'm going to start getting into the barbecue scene, though.
That's where it's really at.
Yeah. And
come out from Memphis in May, and
yeah, I want to start.
Did Josh tell you where he worked before?
No.
He worked for a guy out of Memphis for a couple of years, learning how to barbecue and doing all the stuff. I don't know what the dude's name is, but he was a pretty big deal in the barbecue world. And then Josh went to Wolfgang Puck in Las Vegas, and he won't tell you, but he opened 14 restaurants for Wolfgang Puck, and he did the menu and ran all the whole deal.
I'm pretty sure that Josh and I have a friend in common. Her name's Mindy Siegel. She's a chef out of Chicago. That she used to be Wolfgang's pastry chef.
Highly possible.
Yeah. Josh Winnie is one of the greatest people I've ever had the fortune of talking to. He has been giving me feedback when I send him sauces. I just want to know from his very evolved palate, like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
And so he has been a priceless friend and peer.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere he goes, it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss him a lot.
And, one of the things, hopefully this weekend, if you have 5 minutes to spare, I want you to try some of my stuff and let me know what do you think of it, because that's where I'm really trying to pivot is go, okay, I love doing the homesteading market because people here get the story of, I started this organically from a seed. And
Yep.
now you're tasting the finished product of it.
Yeah, we grew it. All the inputs are here. There's no
Yeah.
poison.
So that's what really works in the homesteading world. But I think I have the balls, the brain, and the product to be able to take that into the barbecue world too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of going to be one of the things that I push for in the next. I kind of close my year after these events and spend the winter taking all of my marketing ideas, content ideas, putting those into action while I'm doing like the Wisconsin Christmas fairs.
Okay.
Which can be pretty lucrative because my stuff is different. I'm not selling Scentsy. I'm not doing one of the 25 different versions of the same booth. Like, what I do is different.
Well, you look different than them too.
Yeah. I didn't used to look like this. Like, right before I met you guys is when this changed.
Why?
Because I always wanted a teal mohawk. And I almost died twice.
So you just got
And
him,
I was like-
came home from the hospital. You're like, I'm getting a mohawk.
I was with my mom, my 88-year-old mom, and I went to go get a haircut, and the woman combed it all forward, so it was the worst haircut you've ever seen. And I got home, and I looked at my husband, and he went,
I'll cut your hair.
"Hi," and I went, "Oh," and he went, "That's what you need to do," and the hair stayed.
So if you wear a costume every day, it's just a uniform. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like, I just picture you always looking like this. I don't know.
This is how I dress.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, no, when I'm at home.
Because you're kind of steampunk. Like, you got the jacket thing, and like you show up, you definitely stand out in a crowd. There's nobody else that's going to be like
real
you.
well.
Yeah.
I don't blend real well. And I'm fine with that at this point. And what my favorite thing, a couple of years before all this happened, I had to deal with some cancer issues. So now when I'm in the grocery store and the grouchy old ladies look at me and go, why would you do that to your hair? I
They
just look
say,
at them
yeah.
and I just go, cancer. And they shut up.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, my mother, God love her, she's still with us, and now she loves my hair. She hated it for the first few years, and now she's like, it's really you. It really kind of, you've always been our artistic one. I love how they make, you're creative sound like it's an insult.
Like, bless your heart.
Yeah, totally Iowa.
Little church ladies.
Yeah.
So, what's up with the business?
Business is going really well. I'm now at the rifle approach as opposed to the shotgun approach. You remember that my first year when I had like 48 different sauces? We're down to like...
The presentation was good.
Presentation's still really good. And my sales approach has gotten better. I'm better at reading people now to go like, are they just browsing or they actually want to engage? My flavors are better. The reason I stopped doing jellies and jams is because I got diagnosed type 2 diabetic.
When?
Before I met you, because I lost 100 pounds.
Do you still, but so you don't test out diabetic now?
No, because I regulate my blood sugars pretty heavily. I mean, we are a ribeye and bacon family.
Well, type 2 diabetes is self-induced diabetes. Type 3 is called dementia and Alzheimer's. Like they don't have that in other countries.
Yeah, my dad had Alzheimer's and dementia at the end, but he had also had diabetes for 50 years leading up to it. So it's just that's just the way it moved. But yeah, I had that realization of like, I'm doing this for enjoyment, but I'm actually poisoning people with all the sugar. Because I mean, you make a jelly and it is 50% sugar.
Yeah, we kind of poison people with our gummy bears and stuff. But I mean, it's one of our biggest sellers. It's our highest profit margin on anything.
But you're also saving a lot of people and getting them prepared. So I think that there's a balance there.
Maybe. I wonder what the actual real crossover is, because a lot of people buying gummy bears probably are not listening to the content, right?
Yeah.
They don't, like, if you look at the shirts we sell, the ones that are like, do fucking hard work and burn the boats, we have a lot of those shirts sitting there, right? Because, and I think a lot of people have imposter syndrome too, right? You get a dude that's 4X, 5X, and he's like, he's not going to wear a shirt that says "work harder, you piece of shit." I mean, some of them will. I don't have a shirt that really says that, but
yeah, I don't know. Burn the boats was one of my, honestly, that has been lodged in my head since I think I talked to you about that, where I did the deep dive into the Cortez quote and looked into it, and you had recommended you sent me a bunch of videos, and I spent probably 2 or 3 days just really focused on that, and I was like, that's the only way to approach my business. I don't have another option. I don't want another option. I want.
That's the demarcation between people that start a business and people that really have a really bigger business, right? Than that level. You always have that fallback. Anytime I've got a friend that's got a fallback, especially like real friends that have a fallback, they're not ever going to stick with the business. They're not going to do the thing. They'll have a great idea, but they're not going to do it because they've got that fallback. That fallback is always there. Yeah. Just as I sent you all that, Dawn Gorham hit me up and said, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And I'm like, and I just sent her, I have, 12 videos. I actually go look every time and listen to them myself and sent that to her. That all comes from Tony Robbins. He's got the best presentation, but there's not a lot out there. Like that actual, him presenting that is about a 5-minute presentation in there. But you don't ever find that anymore. It's very difficult. You find little 15, 10 seconds, and then there's a preacher doing some of them, but his presentation is shit compared to Tony Robbins.
Yeah, but just
Sean Whalen's got a good one.
But just sitting with it and really thinking about it and going, why are you making excuses for yourself to fail at the thing that you claim that you want to do?
We used to do a lot more content that was like that, like people asking me. I wouldn't give people advice, but I'd tell them what I really thought, right? And then I don't know what planted that seed, but my real concern was that I was going to have some dude take the advice and then lose the house or not be able to execute, right? Get something from the wife about my husband, killed himself or some shit. Yeah. And I don't know how that got in there, but it really kind of throttled all that shit back too. Yeah. But it's definitely people like, guys are like, hey, I'm going to start this business, but I don't have capital. I'm like, fucking mortgage the house. Yeah. Like, you have the capital. Like, what do you have that we can fucking get a loan against? Yeah. And take that and buy product and then double your money on the product. But people don't typically, guys asking the question, they know the answer, but they don't want to do what it takes to make it actually work.
Until I met you and Amanda, I never met anybody that worked more than me.
I don't think people believe it.
I don't think they do either, but like, because, I mean, Amanda and I are talking to each other all the time, and it's like, what are you working on now? What do you, like, we're literally exchanging our to-do list with each other to cheer each other on because look at how much
Right.
shit we're getting done and people think we're crazy. I don't know how to operate another way. I did before.
I don't want to operate another way. Like, I get next to people that are seemingly successful businessmen, and it's always like vacation, or you should go on this cruise, or you should do this thing. It's not what I want to fucking do. No. And a good way to put it was Alex Hormozy. I saw a short from him. He's like, if I haven't occupied the same space with you for a year, within the last year, if it's not important enough, and I took it further, if it's not important enough for you to come where I am, I'm not coming to your wedding, I'm not coming to your funeral, and I'm not coming to your Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't, when I lived 5 minutes from you, I wasn't there. Why do you think after 15 years I'm coming? Like, not my thing.
I'm talking to people about coming here for SRF. They're like, well, how long are you going to be there? And I tell them, they're like, what are you going to do that whole time? And I'm like, work my ass off and help my friends. I get more enjoyment getting here early and helping you guys get ready and helping set the event up and then clean it up afterwards than I do during the event. I really do. Like, I want to help people who help people.
Is the business you do compensates you enough to cover the time?
Sometimes.
Where's the demarcation at? Like, what changes that? Why sometimes and not other times?
Because I like to spend too much money.
Okay. That's how I was when I would go to gun shows, right? We were trading for all kinds of stuff, and I spent more money than I ever made. But when I started running actual, doing books and had a bookkeeper and an accountant and shit, that all changed, right? The best thing I did was remove myself from it, right? Everybody wants to come in and talk to me, and they're expecting a deal, and half the time I would give fucking complete strangers a discount on some shit, and I was never going to see that person again. We bring people in that handle that so that I am not doing that. Amanda, like, I might talk to you, but my guy's going to ring you up, or Amanda's going to ring you up. I'm not going to deal with any money on the floor because that removes all of that shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, really, if you added it up, a 10% discount to the amount of people, like at Blade Show, for instance, that's a $20,000 difference on that shit.
That's huge.
So I just stopped dealing with that. I heard Frisella talking about, I don't give my parents a discount. Like, why would I? This is business, and this is something else.
Yeah. And I'm over generous.
Yeah, same.
Same. It's the same. Well, we're a lot alike in a lot of different ways, and that's part of my problem is I don't want my friends to pay for the stuff that I make. I make it with love. I want them to enjoy it. But then everybody slowly becomes your friend.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the friend thing, though. Like, we use that term, and it doesn't mean the same thing anymore. Yeah. Especially with the internet and social media now. When you really push these people, you're like, when's the last time you saw your friend? Like, they've never been in the same room. And I do have friends from the internet, but, like, we use that term so loosely.
Well, and your and Amanda's friendship means enough to me that I come to your home.
Correct.
I don't expect you to come to my home. I know that's not going to happen, but like that's one of my markers for people is when is the last time I was at your house or you were at mine? Mm-hmm. If it hasn't been in 6 months, we're not friends.
Right.
We're not that kind of friends. Right. And it's, again, you'll hear me talk about this on Sunday, but I use permaculture in my friend circle. Are you a zone 1 friend or are you a zone 2 friend?
Yeah.
Okay. My zone 1 friends.
We'll have a lot of people listening to this that don't know what that is.
So in permaculture, the way you set up your
7,
farm,
right?
Yeah. And it basically, what you need to interact with every day, what needs your attention every day needs to be closest to your hub. Those are my ride or dies. Those are the people that when shit gets real, I'm going to pick up the phone and call. Your zone 2 is you need to maybe visit it every couple of days, every other day. And by the time you get to zone 7, if you're looking at it once a quarter, that's enough.
It's like the corner of the property that I only see,
where
every 5 months. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's like a 4 a.m. friend.
Yeah. And you do that. I do that with my friends group. I also do that with people working on projects with me. Like, do I want you working on plumbing in my house? No. But you can go pick up sticks and rocks in the field. Mm-hmm. Because until you have shown me that you have got thinking skills and you can follow instructions, I don't want you working on something.
Most of them never make it.
I know. That's why they start out in the field.
Yeah, we had a dude came in asking for a job. He's like, I need a job, man. I just have to work. We had him pull all the weeds. He did a great job, just right out here under all the raised beds. And I said, come back tomorrow, be here at 8. He came back kind of mumbling and groaning and talked to Sky for a minute. And I said, are you quitting? And he said, yeah, man, my legs, I'm 42. I go, oh, I get it, man, I'm 52. I understand. And that was his day, man. Cody was working off at 12. Cody was going into his other job at noon, and we were going to put him in there and try him on the table. And he didn't make it, man.
And I got to say this. Cody impresses the hell out of me.
Thank you.
He is a good man. He makes eye contact. He is kind. He's got a kindness that comes from him. He doesn't know who I am from Boo. He's seen the blue-haired weirdo here a couple of times, right?
He knows who you are.
But, like, every interaction I've had with Cody is exactly the kind of man that I would want to call my son.
Thank you. A lot of that's because it's you. He knows who you are.
Well,
he knows if you're inside these fences when there's not an event going on, that you're somebody different from everybody else.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to prove that to you guys. I don't know. I felt at home here the first time I was here, and I didn't think I would. I literally showed up to the first SRF, and I'm like, I am not going to blend. People are not going to want to talk to me. And guess who ends up camping? Literally next to us. Sam. Singer Sam. Sam and I sat out there like 5 minutes. We were here 5 minutes, and he and I are talking about 90s hip-hop and music this and Maxwell. And
do you do any music?
No, but I love DJs. Like, a lot of my friend group over the years, I kind of jokingly collected DJs, and I love music. So we had a lot to talk about. But I have no clue about modern music anymore. I'm still the weirdo out in the back field picking blackberries, playing Tupac as loud as I can so the bears don't get me.
Well, I mean, Tupac is the best rapper alive.
Seriously, the best rapper alive.
Yeah. You know, Sam can rap Tupac and sound just like Tupac.
Well, that was what was funny. Our first SRF, Glenn and I were still awake at like dark 30 when he was upstairs with you guys, and he came running back to camp like a little kid who just met Santa Claus. He was like, I was just sitting talking to John and Amanda for like an hour, and it was so cool. And you know, John's into hip hop, and like, which surprised me. I was like, really? Okay, cool.
Yep. Like I say that to young men all the time. I'm like, the problem is the music you're fucking listening to. Like we grew up listening to, you know, running from the police and selling drugs and, you know, escaping, you know, death. And you guys are listening to guys that are on fucking sedation. Like you're mumble rapping shit. Like I can't even understand what they're saying. That's what your problem is. You need some different theme music.
The whole movement of people not having to have responsibility for anything that they do in their lives. I mean, it's permeating through every art form.
Not only no repercussion, right? Not just responsibility.
But they're not driving their own boat.
There's not a punishment. There's not a pain, right?
That's
We keep people alive that won't feed themselves.
Yes. You know, and I don't know if it was you that was talking about it or my husband was talking about it a while ago of like, walk up to 50 people that you interact with on a daily basis and ask them, have you ever been hit in the face?
I say that. It might have been me.
Okay.
It's probably Glenn, too.
Yeah. And it's just like, when was the last time you got popped? Because you check your attitude.
Yeah, there's no physical repercussion.
Yeah.
Like, we had bullies.
Oh,
I'm not saying bullies were great, but I mean,
they served a purpose.
It put a callus on you. Like,
And
one day you gained enough courage that when you fought back, it stopped.
And during the bar days of my life, I was the chick that got to go in and break up the chick fights because I've never been tiny. So once you learn that you can take a pop a couple of times, all the fear drops out of situations, and that's all it's about is mitigating your fear. And I don't think kids are going to have that opportunity. Like, you need to, Well,
I mean, we punish them for it, right? They can't work out their aggressions. They can't even play flag football anymore.
What are we doing though? We're taking their phone away? That's not a punishment in my world. Like, you taking
I mean, we punish them for defending themselves.
Yes, sorry.
We used to, you used to have, like, when we have employees here that are complaining, I'm like, well, let me go get them. Well, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you can't say it in front of them, but you feel comfortable, I mean, like, if you don't stop this, I'm gonna whip her ass. I'm like, oh, totally whip her ass. I'll go get her. We'll have the whole company come out, and you can kumite right out here. My little asshole kid, Amanda's son, thought he was gonna beat up Dakota Laboda, and we came out, and he did all kind. It was hilarious, but I mean, Dakota choked him out. I mean,
Well,
Dakota let him, dance around for a minute, but it recalibrated him.
I used to do the same thing in HR, by the way.
Yeah.
People would come into my office, complain about something. I'm like, hold on. Can you come to my office?
Yeah.
Immediately. I was like, I don't have time for he said, she said. I got no time for gossip. You sit here and you work it out.
Yeah. When somebody says, hey, so and so, I'm like, send me the screenshots. Like I don't talk on the phone like you ever.
Yeah.
Never. Have I ever spoken to you on the phone? It's by accident if I call you.
When I broke down that one time.
Yeah, we had to find you. But I do everything through Messenger so that there's a clear, viewable history, right?
Very
People are
smart.
like, I had a hard time finding your company number. Yeah, it's 1-800-EAT-A-DICK. That's literally the phone number to the building here. It's 866-EAT-A-DICK. And I'm like, what did you think you were going to get when you called that phone number? But I do everything through email, so there's a clear, viewable history so that anybody who handles your account in the future, everybody within my company knows what I promised, and then Amanda knows, because they'll do the same shit. They don't like the answer, they'll ask somebody else. So there's always it just removes everything. Plus, I don't remember half the time what I said, so there's a record of it.
You always, you have to have a record of everything, period.
You do.
I mean, like, I've heard you say it, and this was when I was in HR, and I'm like, that's very smart. Never be alone in a room with a woman, period.
Never.
Outside of your wife,
Never.
never ever.
Look at all the shit that's being accused now. And I'm sure some of it's real, but maybe some of it's not. But if you're not in the position, it can't ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, come here, I want you to listen. I just need another set of ears.
Yeah.
And I tell Amanda all the time, I'm like, I've been looking for this for like 10 minutes. I just need you to put a different set of eyes on it. And she'll walk right over and the place I've been looking, and she'll pull it right out of there.
Yep.
So just have the accountability. It removes all the bullshit.
Yes.
And it removes my ability to tell the story differently than it happened, and it removes everybody else's ability also.
Yep.
Because it evolves over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You keep telling
Oh,
that fish got this
big.
big. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about my favorite place up in Michigan?
No.
It's a place called Moo Fin Fries. And it's owned by a one-armed fisherman. And you walk in and he goes, I swear it was this big. I'm not kidding. This happened to me in real life. Best restaurant in northern Michigan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's your website?
www.thunderhillfarmsingular.com.
What else are you going to do with the company?
I'm not sure yet. I've really spent so much time in the last 6 months carving it and honing it and fine-tuning it and fixing my flavors. When I go down the barbecue line, I'm probably going to do a rub line, do a spice line, because I've got direct access to really good organic, locally sourced spices. And I've got some friends that do a lot of traveling, and they go to India about twice a year. So the likelihood of me bringing back things from some of the oldest spice markets in the world,
You going to go to India?
no, have no interest.
I always wanted to go. Do I really want? I don't know if
I haven't-
let me before I finish that sentence. I want to bring shit back from India. I don't want to go to India.
Correct.
I just want to have cool shit from around the world. Really, I just want to steal it from museums who took it from there. But
I love the aesthetic. I love the way Indian art looks. I love the culture. I have zero interest in going there.
I like the cool doors and shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So how long until you're to the point where you can't grow all your own spices, or you can't bottle it all yourself, or you're beyond that capacity? When are you going to have employees?
hopefully next year.
I guess I was going to say, do you really want employees? But you
I
know.
don't really want employees, and this is the position I'm in right now. Is I think that I know that there are sauces that I could get commercially made on a much larger scale
And keep them identical?
well, I don't know, because I don't know how much of the magic is in the fact that I am growing it and tending it and doing it correctly all the way through. Because
I'm always at that point, right? We've sampled 50 different sew shops, right? And we'll get a sample that is seemingly just like ours. But if you do a production run of 100 pieces, it's never like yours.
Yeah.
And then when we move to that model, right, we're going to have to bring in 1,000 pieces, or you start bringing in shipping containers. Now I have to make a market to sell it. As we're at right now, my ebb and flow works. My bottlenecks, I'm comfortable with them. Like the bottleneck is always capacity. But if we up the capacity, the quality moves, right? I've got tons of shit in there that people have sewn that we just won't ever sell it, right? It just goes to friends and we do whatever with it, use it for promotions to give away to grow the audience and stuff. But then it's a different market. I got to go back to a dealer program. And then you get a dealer, and when like I say shit and I will hurt feelings, and then all of a sudden they put all your shit on sale. So I like how it is right now.
Yeah. And I don't know how big I want things to go, because I still love the concept of it is boutique for what I do. My website, it's great. It's got everything there. It sucks because people don't engage with taste visually. It doesn't matter how pretty I make it, how many great words I use about it. Until that touches your palate, it's bullshit. I need people to be able to taste it and really understand.
Can you make sales without it tasting it? Could you sell it without somebody tasting it?
Probably. It's just something I insist that they don't do. That's why I have my whole vending set up the way I do, which is this is an experiential thing. You're going to come here and I'm going to take you through an experience of how spicy, how sweet, where is your favorite flavor profile?
We had a guy come in that he was a manager for Starbucks in New York, a district manager or whatever. He came to take a class. And James said, hey, I'll trade you for coffee. And anybody who worked at Starbucks got £1 a week. And then if they didn't, they put them in these buckets. And this dude showed up with 500 pounds of coffee and traded James for a class or whatever. And he's like, hey, I'll trade you for coffee. I'm like, cool. And he goes, hey, I'm coming back into town. I will do a coffee tasting. Are you interested in doing a coffee tasting? I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I had all my employees come up into the office area and they sat down. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever. I'm on a computer. And when he started talking about flavor profiles and the 3 regions and what you pair this with, and there's 1,000 times more flavor profiles in coffee than there is wine, and you aerate it to really taste the true flavor. I was fascinated. Like, he had me all 90 minutes. Like, you couldn't have held me 90 minutes anywhere. I sit 90 minutes, I fall asleep. And I listen to so much so I know his spiel. Like, I remember it, having only heard it one time. And that's the thing. Like, it's amazing, the flavor profiles and how to pair it, and you have to educate them, right? But could you sell that without that? Or how would, upsell the customer, right? If you got the one customer, we can get them to do a Christmas package, or will they do a monthly subscription or whatever. But if you took all that shit and you sent it out to, I don't know, cooking shows or, YouTube content creators, man, you just get one of them to use that shit. You'll get thousands of people to buy it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I need to do is invest back into the chefs in my life, because I have a lot of friends who are very good chefs and some very well-known chefs, and I need to get my product in their hands. It's getting over my self-doubt.
Why?
I know it's so stupid. But it's like, I know my products are great, but I don't know my products are great. I still have that, can I make it better? How can I continue to improve it? And part of it is the variable of the grow year. And that's part of, again, where I look at more of the boutique end of things, because like this year we had a horrific year for red raspberries.
Why?
Because it was cold and rainy. And red raspberries like high heat and high humidity.
Can you do them in a tunnel?
We could, but this year was my first year with the greenhouse, and I got to fight aphids all season.
I remember. How big was your greenhouse?
It's only 12 by 25. But
do row houses.
We're looking at getting a row house. We just need to get the house finished first. So it's part of the plan.
I could give you all kinds of advice that I'm not taking myself.
Yeah, I'll just come down here and grow in your row house.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
Well, and I apparently have cornered the market on white raspberries. I think I talked to you about that, but we grow some of the most gorgeous Queen Anne's white raspberries that I think I'm going to figure out a recipe to make myself famous off of. I think there's peaches involved with it.
You ever heard of Gold Belly? Gold Belly, I don't know how you get into it. I'm sure you just hit them up, but they take world famous foods from around the world, or the United States at least. If you want Maine lobster, and there's this favorite, lobster place, they have that shit. I can order these Maine lobster biscuits, and they will send them right to me next day. If you want the Fat King cake or whatever out of New Orleans with the baby in there and shit, I can order it from this world famous place, and it'll be here tomorrow. And that's what they do. They broker those. Basically, you get on there, but you could take anything seemingly, even your white raspberries, fresh white raspberries, and they'll ship that shit out to the people that want them.
Nice.
I don't know what the requirements are, but
And some of my biggest sellers I don't have the ability to can, so I can only do it at in-person shows. That whole fridge is stuff that I bring. The bacon jam, the cowboy jam, all of those pieces, like some of them I could actually can. I could pressure can them. They just lose the consistency changes, the mouthfeel. Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm not happy with it, so I'm not gonna switch over and give a lower quality product.
Yeah, people ask all the time, like when they see the freeze dryer or whatever, they're like, "Man, how do you use it?" I'm like, "I'm not eating any of this shit. Like, this ain't for me. I'm eating cow. This is for whoever shows up."
Yeah, and I'm not sciencey. Science and math are not my thing, and to me, a freeze dryer is very much science. And Glenn got us a freeze dryer, and I was like, I don't care about that thing at all.
Do you use any freeze dried herbs?
I've got a Excalibur dehydrator.
But when you freeze dry them, it's different, right? So it's like aerating wine. When you slurp the wine, you taste it more. Like when we do freeze-dried gummy bears, it puffs them up with air. It removes all the moisture. And when you taste them, they taste 10 times the flavor of when they're not. And that's that freeze-dried. Like I know Amanda uses some freeze-dried herbs that she hasn't been able to get in at certain times. And they are just better being freeze-dried.
Nice. Well, I'll have to dig back in.
And it gives you the ability to have all that shit all through the winter, right? So if we just take those, freeze-dry them, and then you crush them up and you put them in big gallon jars, you have a whole entire jar, or vacuum seal them or whatever.
Yeah, my favorite thing to freeze-dry is bananas.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Don't they turn brown? Do they not?
No, man. Yoda from Grumpy Acres. I talked to her because I love that, and we came across a deal where it was like $12 for a case of organic bananas, but we had to get them right away and get them processed. They were perfect. You ever
heard of Big Mike's or Big Michelets? So the bananas we get in the United States are complete shit.
Yeah,
they're complete trash, right? So the bananas, they're the Michelet. It's a huge fucking banana, and there's a company, or I'm sure there's a bunch, but there is a exotic fruit company out of Florida. When you Google this, you'll find them.
Okay.
And they do a banana box. They will send you 24 different kinds of bananas. You can taste them, whatever, and then they will give you a reoccurring box as they have them available in season. They do all kinds of organic fruits.
Nice.
But like, bananas are fascinating. The wars that have been fought the death over bananas and the CIA involvement and shit. That's how I started. I'm like, I wonder if we could get these, and we found them. You can absolutely. They'll ship them right to you next day, FedEx.
Nice. Jose and Creedley, I used to have a really great resource for organic mangoes and organic Honeybell oranges because my dad lived next to an organic farm in Florida. Well, he passed away, and met these guys, and they were like, we can find those for you. Jose's a truck driver. He can drive them up to you when he's got to go to Minneapolis. So I'm working on expanding past what I can grow, but I can still source it in a logical way.
We have a restaurant here that takes blood oranges, super thin slice them, dehydrates them, and then uses them in margaritas. Very interesting. Very cool appearance, and the taste is very different on those.
Very nice. Well, now I got that Levo C, so like... I don't know why my brain was like, oh, it can only work for herbalism stuff. And I was like, wait, I can do infused vinegars. I can do infused olive oils. I can...
Yeah, anything. And then you have a chamber vacuum sealer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what when Josh started working, he brought in a chamber vacuum sealer, and he was able to take, like the purple onions that they use as garnishes on sides and stuff. Instead of doing those in a 48-hour period or whatever, he does them in 30 seconds. It literally pulls everything into the onion. Same thing with marinades. Like we never marinated anything. He just chamber vacuumed it. It pushed everything into the meat, and then he would just put it in an immersion circulator at 120, 140, whatever, and then all you do is take them out. Because I would take Josh to eat. I'm like, hey, let's go eat these places. And we would go to Virago or Nobu or different places. And I'm like, how are they doing this? And he's like, oh, this is exactly how. And he looked up all the Nobu black cod, and he would make that. And Yeah, he fed me well. He did all my meal prep stuff, fed me 5 meals a day, and then did all of our weekend stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible.
I would love to. I know eventually I will get face to face with him, and I'm gonna just continue to learn because every contact I've had with him has just been honest and positive and supportive.
Yeah,
Just the kind of person that you want.
he's real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's down in Georgia, right?
Yeah, right on the border of Georgia and Tennessee, Blue Ridge Mountains. He's right outside. He's close to Chattanooga.
Okay. I've got family in Savannah and Atlanta, so I'm down there a couple times a year usually.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go right now. It seems to be on fire.
No, my sister hasn't had power for a while.
Well, they have a biological facility up there. Biolab is what it was called, but they have a chemical fire that's been burning for several days. If you feel like you're in danger, go ahead and stay inside and tape your windows, is what they said. They're being there's very little info. What was actually there, what was housed there,
Yeah.
what's loose.
Well, it's amazing how much is not in the press right now. I mean, I was just listening to Bear's update from this morning before I came in here, and one, what a miracle that human is to this world. Just putting it out there.
TJ?
Yeah.
Bear?
Yeah, I haven't met him in person.
Oh, I'll make sure you do.
But, like, hats off. You are a human making a difference in such a huge way. But him just laying it out about, like, yeah, they're not saying it, but they're finding people 30 and 50 feet up in trees.
Yeah, they're saying there's over 1,000 unaccounted for.
Yeah. And
they're really, the government is actually making it difficult to bring assistance in there. They're not doing shit.
it's all very programmed.
Yeah.
And
Did you hear about all the tires being sliced?
Yeah.
Even here at this truck stop and Dixon and Nashville, like just all up and down the 40, 6 sets of tires sliced on big rigs.
do you ever feel like, I'm sure you do because you've got a podcast called Pulling the Thread, but do you ever feel like the reverse of it is as we go further into this and all of these weird threads are pulling together into a picture of, oh shit?
Yeah, I think it's on purpose.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
I absolutely do, but
Yeah, if you look at, like, as crazy as Alex Jones was, right? If you look at the shit he said, like, identify some things that were wrong because they won't come to mind.
yeah.
But you find out that the craziest shit actually it's actually exactly what he said it was. It was it was too out there for us to believe it.
Yeah. And we needed to,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with that said, where you are, where I am, we're removed enough. Like, guys get on the we could definitely have a much bigger audience on the lives every night or the podcast if we did just that stuff. But what does it add to you, right? It actually takes a lot away from me when I get on those tracks. If I turn the phone off, like when we stopped doing the compound videos,
I know.
and I got a lot more shit done.
Yeah.
Right? I get a lot more shit done. Everything I do in an hour takes 4 hours with a camera. Yeah. Not because it is necessary, it's because I talk to the fucking camera. Mm-hmm. And I stage things, and I'll drive past something 5-6 times just so that we have the progression of, the B-roll.
Yeah.
So, and that's how all that is. If you turn the phone off, would you know the problem was there?
Nope. Jack said it better than anybody. Doesn't change the temperature
of
of my
water
pool.
in your pool. Yep.
And I started to spread that to our Burning Man world because we did that event in June and people kept coming up and current topic this, celebrity drama that. I'm like, doesn't change the temperature of my pool. And by the end of the event, other people were starting to understand what that meant.
Yeah, you infected them with it.
I'm like, why are you giving this so much energy? It has nothing to do with you.
It's fun to talk about. And it removes us from looking at our stuff, right?
Yeah, I quit gossiping when I was in high school.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll shit talk. There's a difference.
Sure.
But we don't have a whole lot of time here. We don't have a lot of time here.
I think it takes half your life to realize that.
Yep. And then when you have that realization, I don't feel like investing my time and energy in Burning Man anymore because it's not making me a better person.
Yep. At 52, no matter how you look at it, I'm halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't get any of the time back.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell the young guys, the kids. I tell my kids, if I could go back to 20 I don't know that 20-year-old me would listen to me, but if I went back to 30, I would tell myself to do everything I did as though it's important, and if it's not important enough to do it in that manner, don't be doing it.
If I could go back and have a hard conversation with myself, I'd tell myself to stop being such a chicken shit. Well, go find Glenn. No.
Did he really find you on the side of a road?
No, my best friend did. Glenn and I met at the Tartan Ball in Milwaukee, which is like Scottish prom.
Okay.
The guy who married Glenn and I, who's been one of my best friends, easy, for years, you'll get to meet him someday. He met me on the side of the road when we were doing a site visit for an event, and he had just gotten a brand new pickup truck, so he was rolling real happy. And he's like, "You need a ride?" I was like, "Sure." And I went to get in the back of the pickup truck because I'm a hillbilly. And he's like, "Get in the truck, woman."
Did
So-
you know each other then?
No, we had just met.
And
like-
you were a hitchhiker or what?
This was at the event site. I was going around the lake to a
At
different
Burning
position.
Man?
No, this is in Michigan.
Okay.
At a location called Lucky Lake where we throw our Burning Man regional.
Okay.
And I was just walking around the lake to go see the effigy location because we were doing our first site visit. And he was just going to give me a ride to over there. And it was, quarter mile. But I, being a goofball, went to get in the back of the truck. And that's how our friendship started.
Got it.
Yep, he's a good guy. He and Glenn they have the same birthday. They're 12 hours apart.
Neat.
Yep.
All right. So ThunderhillFarms.com.
ThunderhillFarm.com.
Yeah, when you look up farms,
It's in Maine.
it's a beautiful horse farm. I'm like, holy shit. Like, man, she's really doing well. And man, it's like, I don't think that's it.
Nope, that's not it. So it's the singular. We only have one farm.
Thunderhill Farm.
Yep,
And you're all the same across all social media?
correct.
Right on, guys. Check her out and give her some business. Everybody needs some more business.
Everybody needs bacon jam in there.
And that's it's great gifts. That housewarming gift where you're going to give them the same bullshit sign to put on the wall or whatever. Get them. I don't know why I looked at these. Our guys are awesome, actually.
I was like, how do I get one of these signs for in here?
I'll get you one. Check her out, thunderhillfarm.com, and give her some business and follow her on social media and reach out and tell her you saw her here. Make sure you follow her YouTube and follow her on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere that you operate. And you guys should come out to one of the events and see us, meet her in person, and we will see you guys later.
Thanks.
All right.